Hello everybody, we're back for Art at Home. Today we're going to be making a new project where we're going to be talking about shapes. So at the end of our project it's going to look like this, but it's going to look pretty different beforehand. Today we're going to be making art by using shadows and positive and negative space. So we have four main objectives with this project. Number one, students will create art that connects to the environment by talking about the sun and shadows. Second, students will create art that shows positive and negative space. Students will practice making art by drawing. We're going to be doing a lot of drawing at the end of this project. And students will use their observation skills to make art, where we're going to very closely observe the positive and negative shapes that we see out in the shadows we're observing. So we're going to look for some shadows and observe some shadows while we're making our art, but we're going to be talking about positive and negative space while we are making our art. So here's some information on what positive and negative space is. So with this picture of the flowers are what's filling up the positive space, and the negative space is all the white emptiness around these flowers. With this shadow picture, the positive space is the space that is filled up by these shadows, and the negative space is the emptiness all around these shadows. There's emptiness all around the outside. In between where the people are holding up their arms and their head, there's little pockets of emptiness. That is all the negative space in this picture. So just like in this picture, we're going to look for our own shadows around our homes, and we're going to use those shadows to find positive and negative space and create art with that. These window hangings here in the sunshine cast shadows that you could use. If you have some furniture out, the furniture can cast shadows that you can use. And if you don't see anything standing that you like, you can get out a toy, and if it stands still, the toy casts shadows that you can use as well. Okay, so for me, I'm gonna go a little bit outside, and I'm gonna use this area right here to make my shadows with. So it's about 11 o'clock for me. The shadows just started coming out, so maybe they come out at 11 o'clock, and I'm gonna set my station up right here. So for my shadow drawing, I'm gonna use a cereal box. So I'm recycling this cereal box. I'm using it again to draw my shadow art on. So I'm gonna lay it down, and I'm just gonna tape it down here onto my surface so it doesn't go anywhere. All right, and so that's just gonna protect my cardboard from blowing away in the wind or having somebody knock it over. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start drawing my shadows. Right now, I only seem to have this one shadow right here. So I'm gonna take out my pen and I'm gonna start drawing the shadow. So I'm just gonna start on this side, and I'm gonna copy my shadow the best I can all the way down. Okay, so right now the shadow is just a big rectangle. I'm gonna come back later and see what kind of things the shadow looks like then. Okay, so it's about 12:45 now, and the shadows have changed a lot. So I'm gonna start tracing the shapes that I see way over here on the other side of the paper from earlier. So I'm just gonna use my pen and go over all the new shadows that I see. Okay. Okay, it is 2 o'clock and the shadows have changed a lot. I used to have just a little bit of shadows on this side or a little bit on this side, but now I have great big shadows filling up the whole paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep tracing out my negative space. So I have a big triangle of negative space right here. So I'm going to trace that out. I've got a big rectangle of negative space here. So I'm going to trace that out. And the other side. and a big rectangle here. And my last, oh, actually it's a trapezoid shape that I have going, so I'm going to trace out the top of my trapezoid and the bottom. Okay, it's about 7 o'clock and I think the shadows are all done for today, so I'm going to take my picture up. So with my finished project, I have all these shapes that I collected on my box that I'm using, and I'm going to start filling in these shapes with colors. So I started filling in some of them with marker. Now I'm going to go into some of these, and I have some crayons, so I'm going to start filling in this with some crayon, where I'm going to go into these shapes and I'm going to color them real carefully, making sure I'm using my level 4 coloring skills, where I want to color these carefully inside the lines, filling them up, and I'm being real careful to fill out any white spaces, or I guess brown spaces with the cereal box, but any empty spaces I want to fill them all up so they're all full of color. So if you have crayons, you can start filling in your shapes with crayons. If you have something else like markers, you can start filling in your shapes with markers. Like I have this nice pink marker. I think I want to start using this pink marker, and for this I'm also using my level 4 coloring skills, where I'm going nice and slow. I'm being careful to stay in the lines. I'm being careful not to make any white gaps, but I see that I have some around the edges right here. So I'm just going to go back in and fill them all up so everything is nice and full of color and I have good craftsmanship. So that's one way to use the markers. I also could use markers by making a pattern, or maybe I want my pattern to be a pattern with shapes, where I'm going to use my 3 colors. And I'm going to make a pattern that is pink triangle, nice big triangle to fill up all this space. Pink triangle, green triangle, orange triangle, and I could keep going. Pink, green, orange, pink, green, orange, pink, green, orange, to make a pattern there. Now, I could use these crayons and markers to fill up my artwork with colors, but also I can use something else to fill up my artwork with lines. So maybe I want to use something like this pen, where if I have a pen at home, I can use that too, where maybe I'll fill up my artwork with lines that are straight. Maybe I'll fill up my artwork with lines that are zigzag. Maybe I'll fill up my art with lines that are spirals. Or I can make it a pattern where it goes straight, zigzag, spirals. So if you have a pen, you can still use your pen to fill things up, or I can just color it with the pen, or I can color it in all the way. Being real careful to use my level 4 craftsmanship, where I'm coloring nice and close. I don't have any kind of white gaps. There are some white gaps where It's close to the line because I want to be careful I stay inside the lines, and I just go back in and fill them up. So I could use my pen and just make my artwork just with a pen, or maybe, you know, I have one of these at home where I can use a pencil. So I can use the pencil the same kind of way, or maybe I want to make, you know, another kind of pattern where it's triangles, zigzag, triangles, zigzag. And I can go back in and add some details to that by coloring in my triangles with my pencil, making sure I have good craftsmanship, filling it in all the way with no gaps. Oops, I made a gap. Let me go back and fill it in. Fill in my gap. There you go. So there are lots of different tools you can use to fill up your shapes, or you can fill them up with shape patterns, line patterns, or you can just color them. But what you want to do now is we're going to go back in and fill up all the shapes you collected with different colors, patterns, shapes, or lines. So every shape should have something in it by the time you are done. So I hope you guys enjoyed this project. I hope your projects turn out well. Remember, if you go to the Suitland Art at Home website, there's all my contact information on there, so you can share your artwork with me so I can take a look at it. Also, if you go on the Suitland Art at Home website, there is more information about different kinds of lines you can use, different kinds of shapes you can use, positive and negative space, just so you can get ideas to help you with your project. Have a great rest of the day, have a great rest of the week, and enjoy being creative at home. Bye!